How's it going, everybody? My name is Alexander Regan, and today I am joined with CBS NFL analyst Charles Davis. First of all, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and as well as coming on the YouTube channel.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to having a nice chat with you.
Thank you. So, in today's discussion, we're going to be talking strictly about the 2025 NFL Draft and some predictions, implications, and opinions we have on certain prospects, teams, or rankings. So the biggest discourse in any NFL draft is obviously the quarterback class, okay? And this year's quarterback class has had some mixed opinions. And so the biggest one out of all of those that's had these mixed opinions is, of course, Shedeur Sanders. And I know we talked previously, and what I really want to gauge your thoughts on is what do you think of Shedeur Sanders as a prospect?
I think he's a good prospect. I think a lot of what we do, Alex, is that we spend a lot of time comparing people to past people or current people to try and get a fix on what we really believe they are. And sometimes we can overdo that. But I think he's a good prospect. Would I have had him at the top of the draft class, let's say last year, where six of the top 12 top 12 picks in the draft were quarterbacks? I would not. Nor would I have Cam Ward, even though we're not talking about him.
Shout out Cam Ward.
This year's class, I think Shedeur Sanders is the second best quarterback in the class. Does he have a howitzer for an arm? No. But can he make the throws necessary? Yes. Is he an elite athlete? No. Is he a good athlete? Yes. It just keeps going on and on and on. Production has been very good. You go back and look, Jackson State, Colorado, production has been there. He's been well trained, well coached, and sometimes I think he catches a little extra pressure because of
He
who he is.
does.
So there are benefits to being a Sanders, and there are also, oh boy, a lot of people. Let's be honest about it. There's a lot of jealousy out there. There's a lot of people who would love to see him fail, and he's known that since he was probably
Oh, yeah.
5 years old. So he carries that with him. So I do think he's a good prospect and definitely worthy of people talking about him at the top of the draft for those quarterback needy teams.
I do get the understanding from him that he kind of understands he understands his surroundings
Yes.
and like he understands his situation and understands his father. Obviously, I don't believe the rumors going around blah 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 that Dion's going to follow him to the NFL. Obviously, he signed a contract extension with Colorado, so I believe that rumor is kind of washed now. But in terms of a prospect, I really love his accuracy and the way he sees the game through the pocket. But I guess some liabilities is getting sacked and his feel for pressure in the pocket, and then the athleticism of extending the play.
Yeah.
But
And let me
we,
jump in quick on that because I think that you are, I like where your analysis is going. I think there's a lot of us that share similar thoughts about that. He and just about every other college quarterback coming out, there's a term we like to use, speed up your process. Almost all of them have to speed up their process for the NFL
mhm.
because in college, you can generally hold the ball longer in hopes of making a bigger play and get away with it more times than not.
And that
Now,
happens a few times. That happened a few
right?
times for him.
Seen that. And for him, though, he's been sacked a lot of times, and not all of those are on the offensive line.
Mm-mm.
Him holding the ball, wanting to see something open, wanting to see a bigger play, he will have to speed up. So I only wanted to jump in because I wanted to let you know I agree with where you're going with that. I do think accuracy is a big part of his game. And by the way, throws a deep ball really well.
Yeah,
That's one of the best parts of his game.
he does. And I mean that accuracy through all three levels of the field is clear, and that's a good skill that he's going to take to the NFL. But I was also wondering because we talked about this previously, a potential fall to the second round.
Potential is there. There's no doubt about it, Alex. When we start looking at it, three teams at the top of the draft are definitely quarterback needy teams, as we like to say. Tennessee Titans picking at one, Cleveland Browns picking at two, New York Giants picking at three. Our next real pressure point after we've gone through free agency, where the Jets got a quarterback in Justin Fields, the Raiders got a quarterback in Geno Smith, it does feel like we're getting to nine with New Orleans, especially with the recent word about Derek
Yep.
Carr and the shoulder surgery. So now we're getting they didn't think they were a quarterback needy team. In
Now
fact,
they
the
might
general
be.
Ricky Loomis had announced, "Hey, we're riding Derek Carr." That may be changing as we speak, right? So that's at nine. Then to me, the next truly quarterback needy team, barring any trades, we're getting to 21 with Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is what the case is, and if these teams in the league deem these guys not worthy of first round selections because now we're past Shedeur Sanders, aren't we? Jackson Dart comes into play here. Jalen Milroe comes into play in here. Tyler Shuck comes into play in here. So if all those are deemed not first round guys, and Shedeur Sanders might be one of those people, they could very easily end up in the second round. We've had those drafts, one quarterback in the first round, and we get surprised, and other guys get pushed. Our most recent was Kenny Pickett going to Pittsburgh
He
in
went to
the
Pittsburgh too.
20s in the first round. And our next quarterbacks came off the board in the third round. Desmond
Ritter and Willis. So you mentioned one of the guys that I wanted to talk about next in terms of Jackson Dart. So I know in your mock draft you did have him going 3, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's my first mock draft. I had him going 3 to the Giants.
Yeah, I'm going 3.
What did that cause some consternation?
I remember I saw one day randomly a YouTube short of somebody talking about your draft or your mock draft, and I was like, I know the draft because I knew he took Jackson Dart 3. Shout out to MMG, Madden Mobile God, YouTuber. I had to gauge your thoughts on Jackson Dart because he's one of the upcoming quarterbacks that's been a real draft riser within the offseason. But how do you see his potential fit in certain NFL teams, and as well as him being heavily linked to the Steelers as well?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me linked to the Steelers because we still believe Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Steeler. See,
I got some bad. He left a bad taste in my mouth after this
year. He was
year.
a Jets fan, but I think that's what it feels like. It almost feels like we're at the stage of Aaron Rodgers either Steeler or Aaron Rodgers isn't going to play. That's kind of what it feels like. Don't know if that's accurate or not, but I think that the Steelers' interest in him would be because they like his potential. You mentioned accuracy of Shedeur Sanders. You see that when Jackson Dart throws the football. You see big plays happen. You see an underrated ability to run the football, quarterback run game and scramble out of the pocket. You see a ton of experience and a lot of passes thrown, whether he was at USC or at Ole Miss. You hear about the leadership qualities unsolicited from teammates of his, even defenders. So there's a lot that goes into the package with Jackson Dart. But there's a lot of what Ole Miss does that almost equates to what the San Francisco 49ers do, where Kyle Shanahan is such a way at scheming people open that sometimes people don't believe the talent is getting them there. It's Kyle Shanahan schemes, and people are benefiting from that. And Jackson Dart does get that mention a lot. Hey, when you watch Ole Miss play and what Lane Kiffin is doing, there's a lot of really open targets. Now, my answer to that always is, well, the good thing is Jackson Dart doesn't miss those targets. Right? If they're wide open, he hits them. But understand what people are saying. It's going to have to be a little bit of a transition for him to play a little bit more pro style and run more of a pro style offense. But I think the young man is more than capable of doing it. But if they get Rodgers and have Dart to back him up and not have to start right away, to me, that's the ideal situation for everyone.
In your opinion, how many first-round quarterbacks do you think there will be?
When it's all said and done, I'm going to put the number at 2 and would not be surprised if we went under. That's kind of where the momentum is feeling for me right now. 2 feels like the number. For the longest time, I was feeling 3. I was feeling Dart in the first round. But this is starting to feel like that Pickett, Ritter, Willis year.
The 2022.
It wasn't that long ago because this is going to be Will Levis's 3rd year in the NFL, I believe, coming up with Tennessee. It wasn't that long ago. I was sitting on the desk for draft night with NFL Network, and Rich Eisen, who hosts our shows and does a fantastic
shout out, Rich,
was saying as Jackson Dart was entering the place, and there's not Jackson Dart, but Will Levis. Will he go in the top 5? Because remember how much momentum built on draft night?
He was getting a lot of hype.
And he ended up not going in the first round. He was the 2nd pick of the 2nd round. So sometimes the hype doesn't match up the actual result. But I'm going to put the number at 2. Wouldn't be surprised if we went down below it. But I still feel like Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders would be the first 2 names off the board.
I guess we can transition our discussion to other players. Notably, I had to ask about Travis Hunter. So obviously Blitnikoff winner, Heisman winner, and a dual threat. Cornerback, wide receiver. What do you believe is his fit in the NFL in terms of if he can play one, cornerback or wide receiver or both? And then I guess what teams would be able to utilize his skill set?
Oh, great question. All right, let's start with where I see him. Number one, either side of the ball, I think he can be an outstanding football player. I think he can be a star. Either side of the ball. I've talked with enough people now in it who have gone into it one side or the other. Like they went into it saying, I think he's this. And then they watched tape and went, oh my goodness, he can play that. And the others did, I think he's that. Oh my God, he can play this. So I've gotten the breakdown from both of them from people I really, really respect. Both sides went, I didn't realize just how good he was on the other side of the ball because I was convinced
He was good
this
on this
side.
side.
All right. So that's the first thing that comes out of it. The second thing is talking with a Hall of Fame defensive back, Rondé Barber, who does a
Ooh,
fantastic job understanding the game and playing. And if you watch Rondé's career, corner, nickel, safety, all three, blitzer, cover guy, great tackler. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
all around Hall of Famer.
Backs we've ever had. He did a great breakdown on Travis Hunter's game at the corner and showed all the flaws. Lack of technique, footwork's bad here, this is bad there. And you know what happened almost every play?
He made a play.
The technique was wrong, he made the play.
Hmm.
So we're seeing a
That
superior
happens.
athlete that just needs to be coached. And that's all you're looking at. And Rondé came away like this kid can be sensational, get the right coaching and all that. But he left me with one great comment. In his estimation, if you're going to play him on both sides of the ball, which is okay, probably limited at first, which would be a great idea. I don't know about full time ever. That's a tough ask. But if you're going to play him, he says if you're going to play him at receiver full time, he can fill in at defensive back. But if you play him at defensive back full time, it's harder to fill him in at receiver because of what goes into it. He said so that he said that's just kind of how it goes. So not let me rephrase that. What he says if you play defensive back, fill him in at receiver, that's easier. If you play receiver, okay, I want to make
Mm,
sure I have it right. Harder to do defensive back because of the techniques involved. So his thing is his note of caution is if he's a full-time receiver, you may have some real issues when he goes over to play defensive back because the technique hasn't been worked on as
mm-hmm.
much. Big plays are given up. That turns into 6 points in the NFL as opposed to college football.
Yeah.
But play him a defensive back full time and make him that true shutdown corner. Running routes as a receiver, much easier to do. Okay.
Hmm.
I almost got it wrong. Did not want to have Rondé's words twisted. Didn't want Rondé coming in and giving me the business as he would have been
Saying a mean
well.
comment.
But that was his comment on it, and it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think from a lot of discussion that I've had with some of my other classmates and the people that I've talked to, um, for me, at cornerback, I see a potential one of a kind ability to not only understand route recognition and the little intricacies that a wide receiver has because he's played at such a high level at receiver. Now he will need to get coached up, of course, and playing both those positions can offer him like an insight into the other position that other players and other receivers and cornerbacks physically will not able to have. Plus, you match that with the athleticism and then the big playability. Like this dude flat out makes plays on both sides of the ball, and also the skills. Like in terms of like Trayvon Diggs, phenomenal for like one of the ball hawks of my generation. He Travis Hunter at cornerback could potentially be that. Yes, he might give up a touchdown. Yes, he might get yammed on by a 6'5" or AJ Brown type of receiver. But there are a lot of potentials with Travis Hunter. It really depends on honing in that potential. And I think that's the biggest thing because there is a world where a team wants him to do both things and he fizzles out at both just because he doesn't quite have that consistency at one position that you need at the NFL level.
Yeah, you make some really great points all the way through. And for me, it's very simply this regular maturity comes to us as we go through time, right? So if we're getting a 20-year-old out of college, I guess he's 2021, I would imagine, right? Whatever that is. We're getting him out of college. He's still maturing physically. So sometimes the weight doesn't stay on. He's playing 115 plays per game. I know he weighed, I think, 188 at
Yeah,
the combine.
a bit bigger than his like sticker weight.
Yeah, I really think he played in the high 170s in
Hmm.
Colorado because just that workload, what you're doing, all those things. but now he's going to have an NFL diet, right?
NFL weight room.
NFL weight room. This is your business full time. By the way, he's an academic All American. So intelligence part of it is a non-issue as far as that's concerned. So I think whichever way you go as a team, you pick one side, you sprinkle in the other, and then you'll probably add to his plate as he gets older. Because right now, 115 plays is a little bit different in college because there's a play or two you could take off there, right? I don't have to do much on this one. Not many you're going to take off in the NFL, and they're not going to run as many plays anyway. They're going to, but here's the thing: what you gain in stamina, guess what you're going to lose? The hitting, because now the hitting that comes along with the NFL, that's a different world of hitting. Everyone thinks the hitting is big in college. It is. It doesn't compare to what we're talking about, the physical aspect of an NFL game. It's not even close. The only way to know it is to have been there, seen it, done it. Remember, in college, you're hitting for your three hots and a cot, as we used to say. In the NFL, you're hitting for your job.
Yeah.
That's a whole different deal.
Your life.
Now, obviously, NIL is changing things a little bit, but I still think most of that holds.
That's very true. So let's switch our discussion more to, I guess, classes as a broad topic. So the first one that I wanted to mention was the running back class. Obviously, from the internet searches and some of your interviews, you really like this running back class.
Yeah, exactly. All do.
It is a phenomenal running back class. I mean, every time I turn on the film, I see one of the running backs from this class, Cam Skadaboo, Jordan James, Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, doing something absolutely crazy that, other running back classes potentially don't have. And I mean, the best running back class that I've ever seen was, of course, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, two Pro Bowlers. I don't know if Jahmyr Gibbs was an All-Pro. However,
he certainly felt like he played
I know it's a dual running back system, but he's an absolute, as Sonic and Knuckles, he is the absolute game changer on that team. And this running back class is phenomenal. I mean, Ashton Jeanty is a potential top 10 pick. Omarion Hampton's a potential first rounder. Cam Skadaboo, college football legend.
Yes.
What is your top 5 running backs?
Oh boy. I'm not sure I've got a flat out 5, but I'm gonna throw some names at you. You mentioned obviously Jeanty 1, Omarion Hampton 2. Now you're starting to get into the Ohio State kids.
Ooh,
Travion Henderson, Judkins, right? Some people, it depends on their flavor for it. Judkins about 20 pounds bigger, a little more thump when he runs, but Henderson catches it out of the backfield. Skadaboo, you mentioned. I think he's still underrated.
He's so crazy.
The problem you run into is people who like watches and numbers and all, and we all do. And I never discount them because sometimes they really match up well. He ran 4.65. I don't lose as much sleep on my running back the way he plays at 4.65. Because he does everything for me. He runs through you. He runs over you. Plus, he's got really soft hands and catches the football in the backfield. I love his competitive nature. Dylan Sampson from Tennessee.
Ooh.
And he had
underrated name.
Underrated, put it in the end zone 18 times. He can flat out go and play. Facial Tootin, coming out of Virginia Tech, probably underrated. Then we got to the combine. What do you run? 4.32, 4.3, like that.
High 4.3s or low 4.3s.
He can flat out go, and he had big time production North Carolina A&T, as well as at Virginia Tech, and he played with a leg brace for part of the time at Virginia Tech. That's gone now. He should be healthy. You mentioned Jordan James coming out of Oregon. Well, Bucky Irving came out there last year, and recency plays a lot into this too. Bucky Irving comes out there last year. Was he a 4th-round pick?
Yes.
Darn near. Like, if we don't have Jaden Daniels running around, right? If we don't have a couple other guys, if we don't have Brock Bowers running around, you're going to be mentioning Bucky Irving as the Rookie of the Year. He had a fantastic year on a playoff team in Tampa. So those are some of the guys that come off my tongue very easily, but we just keep going, right? You just keep.
Such a deep running back class.
Where are these others runners coming from? We don't mention Brashard Smith coming out of SMU, the former wide receiver who's now a
wide receiver. Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy did the exact same thing between Iowa and Purdue and had a very productive rookie year with the Giants. We could go on for a while. It is a very deep running back class. And the way the Eagles won the Super Bowl and Saquon Barkley helped put more spotlight back on the running back position. And if you're a runner right now, These are the good days.
Yeah, the value has certainly gone up, especially after this season. I think there were more 1,000-yard rushers than there were 1,000-yard receivers this year.
Yeah.
If I'm not incorrect, I mean the running back production was insane this year.
Yeah.
Insane,
Yeah.
especially in the NFL.
Yes. And the one thing to keep an eye on, scat backs will always have their place in the
Hmm.
game. But the way defenses are constructed now, because they're a lot lighter than they were in the days of old, right? In the last 10 to 15 years, defenses have gotten smaller because the college game has become more of a space game. So your defenses have
Hmm.
had to slim down to keep up with the fast twitch nature of the offenses in college. So now, if you are a dedicated team with a big hulking offensive line, with a big strong runner, and you beat people up for 4 quarters, that attrition can help you. The top 10 running backs in the NFL last year, I don't have the number in front of me. I'm just guessing based off of experience. I'm going to say 6 to 7 of the top 10 runners were 215, 220 pounds or bigger.
Other than Gibbs, like yeah.
Yep. Big backs make it work, and big backs tend to have an effect on defenses right now. If the defenses got bigger again, like they used to be when I was a kid, then guess what? We may get back to more of the scat backs. Now, remember what I said: scat backs have their place.
They're
The
down.
people who beat you up throughout a game, typically going to be the bigger backs, the Derrick Henrys, the Joe Mixons, people of that nature.
Josh Jacobs,
Josh Jacobs, you know. Look, David Montgomery's not a little back, talk about Sonic and Knuckles,
Knuckles.
right? Which allows Sonic to go. And look, and Alvin Kamara looks like a scat back. Alvin Kamara's 215 pounds. He's bigger than what you think. So this is what you're getting in the NFL now, and this is what's coming out of the college ranks as well.
And speaking about, the Eagles and their success, it's really helped by their stout offensive line. And that kind of transitions our conversation into the offensive line class. I mean, I've had some mixed reviews. We talked about, notably with us, Will Campbell and his arm length. 0th percentile wingspan, 77 inches, 32 and 5/8 inch arms. That was the shortest at the combine ever. I think that there were some major question marks and concerns that were kind of warranted based on the film that we saw together. Um, and I guess the offensive line class, for me, the one that really spoke to me the most was Ahmad Membo from Missouri, Missouri.
Very
I was
close.
wondering who is your top offensive tackle in the class.
Yeah, Bembu is he's right there at the top. Just what you're looking at. Plus, he's younger. He's
Hmm.
still going into it. Ease of movement, the arm length you talked about, the drive blocking. He's a kid that if you watched him throughout the season on tape, he got better during the
Hmm.
season. He didn't just hit a stagnant point and continued that with a terrific offseason in the run up to the draft with his combine pro day, all the things that go along with it. He's a terrific prospect. I'm going to go to Will Campbell since you brought him up. It's going to be very interesting to see because those who like Will Campbell will cite people like Rashawn Slater, who's starting and playing very well at left tackle for the Los Angeles Chargers, doesn't have the ideal arm length,
Hmm.
right? They're going to cite him and say, hey, his footwork will allow him to live and stay there. Kelvin Banks from Texas has the same type of an argument,
Hmm.
although got a little bit more length than Will Campbell does. Those who are worried about it, we have plenty of examples throughout the years.
Yeah.
For Gallery coming out of Iowa, where he's a number 2 overall pick, ended up having a very good pro career, but it was at guard, not at
Hmm.
tackle. Justin Pugh coming out of Syracuse, could he
Another
stay at?
guard.
Ended up becoming a guard and having a nice NFL career. So
Peter Skronsky.
Peter Skronsky, they didn't even hesitate. They
Yeah,
just
he just
moved
moved to guard.
him right to guard coming out of Northwestern. So my point being, wherever he goes, this team has to have in its mind, let's say they want to try him at tackle. Let's see if he can live at tackle. But in their mind, if he can't, we're still getting a terrific guy who we can move inside at guard. And they believe he has Pro Bowl potential in there.
Let's flip to the defensive side because I'm interested in gauging your kind of predictions or thoughts about who is going to be the edge rusher number 2 in this class. Because, of course, Abdul Carter is the number 1 defensive player in this class, his potential to go number 1 overall, even though I guess the rumors would say that Cam Ward is going to go 1, likely Abdul Carter 2, potentially 3, probably 4.
Yeah.
And also with Travis Hunter, if you factor him in as a cornerback, he could potentially be the first defensive player off the board. But then we kind of get to the real depth of the edge class. We've got a bunch of names. Shamar Stewart. You have James Pierce Jr., Jalen Walker, Mike Green, Donovan Ezraku, Nick Scorton. You've got a bunch of guys.
Yeah,
I know
Williams.
Mykel Williams as well. More of a 4-eye, in my opinion, just a bigger defensive end. Who do you think? I guess I don't want to double-edged sword this question, but I'll start off by this. Who do you think is your edge two in this class?
The most potential is James Pierce out of Tennessee. He's the one that, like, if he puts it together and he gets it, everything is right, he's got all you're looking for at that position to be able to come off the edge with the speed and the movement and the quickness and everything else. Consistency is going to be a question mark, right? That's going to be a definite question mark. And does he have enough bulk out there? A little bit on the leaner side. I think that the Shamar Stewart that plays at 260, 265 pounds,
The leaner one.
versus the Shamar Stewart at 280, 285, give me 260, 265. That Shamar Stewart is the guy I'm eager to watch. You and I have talked about this in our private conversations. The production numbers of these collegians coming out, some of them have the sack numbers. A good number of them do not. But somehow they translate, the good ones translate in the NFL. We've talked about Danielle Hunter is a 100-sack guy in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
He had 4.5 sacks in his entire career at LSU. We have some of that this year with Mykel Williams, Jalen Walker.
Those Georgia guys.
Those Georgia guys. But Trayvon Walker didn't have big numbers coming out of Georgia. He's been back-to-back double-digit sacks in the NFL. You remember Chop Robinson coming out of Penn State at 4.5. Big rookie year.
Big second half.
Yes, exactly. We see it coming. I remember when people were worried about Joey Bosa coming out. Was he twitching up? Was he this? He and his brother are the two best hand technicians in the league. Tutored by Larry Johnson, the defensive line coach at Ohio State. And do you know where the Bosas go in the offseason to get tutored again? Back to Columbus to get with their old coach because he's the best in the business. So you have to evaluate the traits, the production. Where do you think he's going? What type of coaching you have with your team? And does this person have it in him to get better, to want to be great? Right now, I would say Pierce, to me, has the most potential. Mike Green, most explosiveness that we've seen in terms of the last 2 years has been really, really good at doing what he's doing. And then you're looking at a Jalen Walker and saying, I know it's there.
The potential.
Am I going to get it all coming out? So that's what's going to be the fun part watching as we go along, how that all matches up. Nick Skurton, who I thought was better at Purdue. Not saying he was bad next one, but I thought he was better at Purdue. And as we talked about Shamar Stewart, give me the 265-pound Shamar Stewart, and I think I've got something to work with.
And for the last question of our discussion, where do you think the class is strong? Where do you think the class is weak?
Bigs, right? It's just like the old Tom Hanks movie, big. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen, edge rushers. That's where the strength is, as my great colleague Daniel Jeremiah at NFL Network.
Oh, the legend.
Right, who I think is the best talking head, right, evaluator in it. And that's no disrespect to Mel Kiper, who I admire greatly.
Yeah.
I have bias in it because I get to sit next to Daniel and work with him, and we're on the same network. But I think he's terrific at it. He called it a meat and potatoes draft months ago. I think that he's right there. But let's not overlook some other places. You mentioned it. Running backs are going to be good. Wide receivers aren't as flashy as they have been in the past, but that doesn't mean we won't find good wide receivers. There's still a plethora of them out there. Just not going to value them as high at the top of the draft board as we have in the past. We know what the deal is with quarterbacks. It's nowhere close to last year's class in terms of coming out and evaluating. Let's see how they play when they get to the NFL. On the defensive side of the ball, linebackers they've kind of become like running backs. It's been like a devalued deal. But you know I'm crazy about Danny Stutzman at Oklahoma. So I think that he can flat out play among others. But I'm talking about the inside guys, not the outside guys who are more edge. We have corners, okay? Because if you have a ton of receivers, you better have some people to match up. We have some corners. Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame, I think, hate to use the term rising, but his medical check seems to be coming back pretty good.
Yeah.
And now people remembering he was a really good player before he got hurt. seeing that. And you have some safeties. It's not as deep a class as we've had in the past, but it's there. And last but not least, for all those, if you want to be a punter these days, if you want your child to be a punter, move to Australia
Oh
because
yeah.
all the punters are
They're
coming
now
out.
Australian.
They have a phenomenal kicking academy down there. This started way back when with a former San Diego Charger who was from there. I think it was Darren Everett, Darren Bennett, who came from Australia. And since that time frame, it's just an influx. And I do believe we've got 3 or 4 punters who are at the top of the punting evaluations. I think 3 of them are Australian who are coming out this year who have played
crazy.
at Florida, played at Alabama, the whole deal. So if you like kickers and punters, if you want your child to be one, move to Australia and let them go in there.
Go to Bonies. So I think I also really like the tight end class. I think this is a very deep tight end class as well.
How did I miss that? Thank you. This is why you're here. This is why you do this, and you do it really, really well.
Thank you.
It's a great tight end class. A great tight end class. And I can't wait to see what happens because I think 2 are going in the first round.
Ooh.
I think Tyler
Who's
Warren
the second one?
Colston Loveland.
Colston Loveland.
Michigan going. But you have some other ones that once we get into the second round,
Oh my.
Elijah Arroyo looks great coming out of Miami.
Harold Fanning.
Mason Taylor coming out of LSU. Who's the one you mentioned?
Harold Fanning.
Harold Fanning.
Broke all the records.
Broke every record. Not a true tight end.
Yes,
he's more of an
slot.
H-back.
More of an H-back slot.
If you're a good offensive coach, you'll figure it out. I caught 100 balls. You'll find places to throw him the football. How about a Terrence Ferguson at Oregon who looks the part and I think is going to develop and maybe even be a better pro than maybe he was, in college, maybe get utilized a little bit more.
Gunnar Helm.
Favorites, and I'll stop here, is Jalen Conyers at Texas.
Shout out Jalen Conyers.
Like an old school inline tight end, but moves like that move tight end that we've come to know out of college now. Didn't get enough balls thrown to him because he played in an air raid and they ball to the perimeter rather than down the middle.
Also, Gunnar Helm from Texas. Didn't have a great combine, but his tape looked very good.
But I admired him gutting through after spraining his ankle on his first.
And he sprained his ankle on the 40.
But if you watch the improvement last year, way more downfield plays for him his last year at Texas. And remember, he had been behind Shedeur Sanders before that. So that was kind of his year to blossom.
Well, thank you so much for having this discussion with me, and thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me. It's been great for me having these times with you because I learned too. Don't think that, it's a one-way street. Hopefully I can give you a few things, but I'm getting plenty from you as well. I appreciate your intelligence. I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate your tenacity. I definitely appreciate how much you get into it and really work at it and try and see all sides before you come out with an evaluation. It's a great gift that you have. And if you want to use it for good down the road, the NFL is beckoning and waiting for you.
I got my own scouting report from Charles Davis. Mama, we made it moment. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All the best to you, Alex.